Folks, welcome back to the Mañana No Mas podcast. This week, I'm coming to you with not only a new guest, but someone that I consider a friend. I've been a customer of his for years with Groundhogg. He's the founder of Groundhogg. His name is Adrian Tobey. He's from Canada. And other than that, I would like to extend him the opportunity to tell us a little bit about himself. Adrian?
Hi, I'm here. What's going on?
That's about it. Hi, I'm here, and what's going on?
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Adrian. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Groundhogg. We make plugins for WordPress, mostly in the marketing, automation, and CRM industry. We've been doing that for a few years, 5 years actually, over 5 years now. And we've been doing really good with that. Pretty happy. Trying to help people.
Yeah, I gotta say, and I'm just thinking about the journey with Groundhogg for me personally. And for you, I'm gonna say it, and you're gonna be like, well, duh. But it's at first it was, I need a CRM, someone to run my mail list, right? Like just something to send emails out, like newsletters. But Groundhogg's so much more than that. It's there's a sales pipeline in there. You could run it like a real business CRM. You can do automations.
We really let it get out of control.
Dude, there's stuff in there I don't even use.
Yeah.
The calendar scheduler thing is cool. The ability to to monetize appointments is cool. I just, for me, and I'm kind of one of these power implementer people in the WordPress space. And I almost hate the term because I'm not a developer and I don't invent things. I just problem solve people's use cases and figure it out. But Groundhogg's been one of those tools where the figuring out is kind of right there. Like when I first got in, dude, automating things like tags and enrolling people into a course or putting people into some kind of message string, like that was foreign to me 4 or 5 years ago. And now it's super, super commonplace, Talk to me about like, what's it like to have the mindset to sit down and go, I'm going to build something like this. Like, what were you thinking 5 years ago?
Oh, this will be easy. That's what I was thinking 5 years ago. No, but I mean, really, when we got started, as with most entrepreneurs who start their entrepreneurial journey, it always starts with a problem and a need. Back then, I was in a marketing agency trading dollars for hours. Many people who are probably listening to this podcast are very familiar with that.
Oh, yeah.
Not my favorite activity. I wasn't hugely fond of trading dollars for hours. It's not for everybody. It's for some people, and some people love it. And kudos to those people, because those people are my best customers. But for me, it wasn't doing it. I had aspirations of making money while I sleep kind of thing. So the typical work from a beach with your laptop. Not that I've ever done that, but so back in the day, I was doing that. We were using Infusionsoft primarily to facilitate all the marketing automation CRM stuff that we were doing for clients. It was a Infusionsoft certified partner. Our agency was the biggest in Canada for Infusionsoft. I probably built hundreds of campaigns, written thousands of emails for hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses here in Canada and in the United States. And oh my goodness, it was painful a lot of the time. It was painful to integrate Infusionsoft with WordPress at that point in time. The tools that exist today to facilitate that, you got like WP Fusion now, and you got a whole bunch of different integration plugins that exist now that didn't exist when I was doing it, or at least they weren't as well known and weren't as complete as perhaps they are now. But all those tools are also expensive, and you have to pass that on the customer. Customers aren't really super excited about that a lot of the time. It's like, well, I paid you, and you we weren't cheap. We were like in the 30, 40, 50K range for site builds. Yeah. So they're like, now I have to pay like more for all these other softwares. And so I'd been doing WordPress development a little bit. I built another plugin called FormLift, which was a it made web forms for Infusionsoft better on WordPress. Basically, that's the whole concept of that plugin. I still run it. It still makes like $3K a month, doing absolutely nothing. I haven't changed it in like 2 years, much to probably the chagrin of a few customers, but I've been busy doing other stuff. I had been delving into WordPress development, doing that for maybe a year and a half, and doing school full time. Oh, sorry, doing school part time, working full time. And then in 2018, in the winter semester of 2018, I failed my first course ever in like my entire life. University course, CSC 265 or something. And it's like big O computation and logarithmic proofs. And it was way just stuff that I didn't care about, wasn't interested in. I'd spend all my time in the library writing code for FormLift versus studying. And so that summer, I was like, well, I was doing the math, and because I was doing school part-time at night, working full-time, my graduation date moved from 2019 to 2024. So I wouldn't be graduating. If I had stuck with it, I wouldn't be graduating till next year.
Yeah, you'd still be in.
I'd still be in. And I was just like, screw that. I'm not doing that. That's crazy. Who's gonna do that? I'm not a school person. I love learning, and I love consuming information and knowledge, but I do not like doing it in that environment. It's just not for me. Some people love that. I am not one of those people.
Me and you, same space.
And so I was like, well, if I'm not going to school and I don't want to be trading for dollars for hours, I got to be doing something else. That could have been FormLift, but the problem with products like FormLift, and there's lots of products that also have this problem. It's not exclusive to FormLift.
Yeah.
But that their total market capitalization is the market capitalization of the business that they serve. Right. So FormLift could only ever have as many customers as Infusionsoft had. But really, that number is much smaller because it's the number of customers that Infusionsoft had that also used WordPress. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that number gets smaller and smaller as you add dependencies. So I was like, well, I don't think it would be probably a good idea to invest all of my time and my resources into FormLift and make that super deep commitment. So I'm like, well, what else could I build? And
you went crazy.
I'm like, you know what? There doesn't seem to exist like a comparable solution to have my list, be able to send emails, and do automation in WordPress. And so I built it, and here we are.
Yeah, dude. So, and I want to give a shout out to Adam Weeks for putting us together for the show, because I've known you for years, but you've never been on the show. Like we just didn't make the connection. And then Adam Weeks with Serious Influence put us together. And so I was like, perfect fit. And it's actually good timing because I've covered this similar material recently. When you and I talked, we started talking about things like, what would it look like the idea of talking about building an audience.
Yeah.
Like, so obviously we mentioned Groundhogg. We're plugging Groundhogg. You own Groundhogg. Like, yes, Groundhogg. But people buy these tools. They make these investments. They have these dreams of business, just like you had a dream of business. And then when they launch, how many people have we served where when they launch, there's just nothing happening because they don't have the first clue on how do they get the first 5 people, 10 people, 25 people, 100 people, and then how does it become sustainable over time, right?
Yeah. Build it and they will come is not as effective a marketing strategy as it used to be.
It's great with baseball diamonds in Nebraska or wherever that movie was.
Yeah. Not so for digital businesses, that's for sure. There's a lot of noise out there, right? And certainly when I first so I say, and then I built it and then we're here. There's a few things that happened in between. So rewind rather to 2018, and I built like the MVP of this product in 2 months, and that's much less interesting. What's interesting is after that, I'm like, great, I now have this product and I want to sell it to people. My first customers were just agency customers that were like, hey, how would you like to save a ton of money on CRM fees? And they're like, oh, that sounds great. And then we switch them over. It's like, and then, okay, and then what? Right. So we exhausted like our customer list there. And the first thing I did to try and find new business was a Facebook ad. And I set aside a budget of $3,000. And I mean, I had done Facebook ads before for clients. You know, that's what we did. I knew how the system worked. I knew how to do copywriting. I thought I came up with some pretty clever creatives and assets. And I targeted like a bunch of like remarketing, and I uploaded like a Facebook lookalike audience. I downloaded a list off Built With for people that use HubSpot, MailChimp, whatever, right? And I uploaded that lookalike audience, and I'm like, people that look like this or who are on this list, let's get some remarketing going. And within 30 days, I had exhausted my $3,000 budget and made $0. And that was painful, especially for like a new company.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's I was pretty disappointed. I'm like, wow, like nothing, not one.
Goose egg.
There were a number of reasons why that didn't work. So I'm gonna run through the reasons why it didn't work, and then I'll tell you what I did instead of that. So reason one why it didn't work was primarily that the ad sucked. The ad sucked because I didn't know who my customer was yet. I was like, well, we have a CRM, a CRM works for like any small business, right? Every small business needs one, right? And so we're just going to target like small business, which is a huge group of people, right? So problem number one is I didn't know who my audience was. And, you know, they say if you sell to everybody, you're selling to nobody, right? And that was true. My targeting as a result of not knowing who my customer was also bad. So I was placing the ad in places that weren't relevant to the people who would actually eventually become my customers. And the ads also didn't really communicate the true value of what we were offering, and that's primarily because we didn't really know what value we were offering, because that comes from that again comes from the idea of who your ideal customer is. Like once you know that, you know what actually value you bring to the table for them. Our primary value point, which is still part of our overall value these days, but it's a little bit more refined now, is, you know, where we save you money on SaaS CRM fees, right? But we had gone a little bit more on the nose with my ad, and we had like the creative was like a toilet, and there was like money being flushed down.
Yep.
And it was like, are you flushing like your money down the toilet with your like CRM? And I thought that was clever. People on Facebook didn't seem to agree with me.
You should have just gone with save a shit ton, exclamation point.
You know what? That would have been also clever, but there's a few other problems. I'm going to try that next. How about that? I'll run that ad and we'll see how that works. Where was I? So that's why that ad didn't work. The secondary reason why it didn't work is Facebook ads, I think, as a general rule, perform better when you already have an audience. It's like when you already have an audience and you have customers and you get Facebook ads, you're pouring gasoline on a fire, because those people, you know, they can comment on the ads and like them and share them. And when people click on the ads and go to your landing page, there's actual proof there that you can fulfill your claims, or you can, like, you know, make good on the claims that you're making in the ad. I, as a new business, didn't have a shred of social proof to show people that were clicking the ads that, yeah, we can actually back these claims up, right? I think having a pre-existing audience when you're doing those kinds of ads goes a long way. I don't think that's as true for like Google PPC. I think that's a little bit of a different market.
Yeah.
But when I was originally doing this whole strategy, I mean, to this day, HubSpot and ActiveCampaign and all those companies drive the price up of like the CRM keyword to like $50 a click. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's a little bit too rich for me. So anyway, that's how I lost $3,000 in 30 days on Facebook ads. It is not, I mean, there's exceptions to this rule, but for a high touch product like ours, where people are heavily invested in whatever they're currently using, you need a little bit more than a clever ad with a toilet on it to get someone to make any kind of deep commitment. Right. Yeah. So that's part of that was definitely part of our problem. So what we did instead, let's talk about that. So that's what not to do. Here's what you should do. Number one is you should figure out who your customer is, but like not just small businesses, because that's not helpful. That is not a good ideal customer.
Yeah. That's not a niche.
It's not a niche. It's not targeted. So I think one step like better than that would be small businesses where, right? Small business in America, small businesses in Canada, small businesses in North America and Europe, small businesses in North America, Europe, and Australia, right? Like where are these businesses? One of like Infusionsoft, and when I was a certified partner, like we were going to like the Infusionsoft conference, and one of the biggest Infusionsoft partners in the world was in Brazil. And so I'm like, well, if people are using Infusionsoft in Brazil, I can, run my Facebook ad in Brazil and get some, Brazil traffic. 80% of the budget went to Brazil, to totally unqualified people.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's not a qualified market for us. We have Brazilian customers, but the percentage of qualified, the percentage of small businesses that exist in that country to percentage of small businesses that could actually afford and use us is incredibly small.
Yeah.
But they get the ads and they'll click them, and when they click them, Facebook's like, oh, people are clicking this ad in Brazil, so we're just gonna continue to push this ad in that location,
and it burns the budget up.
And it burns up the budget.
Yeah.
So
the idea of selling to the right people to me is so key in the discussion. One of my biggest failures, it's still a thing I face today because it's still an active project, is that Power Sports Academy training site that I built. Hundreds of hours into building content and to building a system to run dealer employees through a training program to increase their sales. And it's to me, it's an easy sell, right? Train your people, and it's it's a 10x or 20x return on revenue for your business. So it seems like an easy sale. But I was always working in the fixed operations, the service side of the motorcycle industry. And a lot of people know me from that. And I thought those were going to be my customers when I built that product.
Yeah.
But then I realized a year and a half into marketing that product, those people are never going to buy the product. It's their bosses, their employers that would actually be my customers.
Yeah.
They would be the people I'd be working with, but the people making the buying decision, are one level or two levels up. And I didn't know those people, I knew, so I was missing my entire market for a year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for us, when our original one was like all small businesses, but it's really not. It's all small businesses, number one, that hate their current provider. and we're actually doing a little bit of a positioning rebrand. It's in progress still, where we're basically just, I don't know, almost like a little bit shit posty, where we're just like, do you hate your current provider? It's like, you won't hate us. Like just like that kind of messaging to just sort of like even like, twist the knife a little bit and just make that pain just a little bit harder. Anyway, also, they have to be small businesses that use WordPress, obviously.
Yeah.
And as we went down the rabbit hole and looked at the people that, it's just some people, because some people will just find you by mistake, and it happens, and that's great when they do. Like I have customers, like the 5 most active people in my Facebook group, I think, were customers within the first 5 months of Groundhogg. And I don't know how they found us. They just showed up one day. And I was like, and they've been customers ever since. And that's great. And those people are like your early champions. Like, those people rock. And all of those people were agencies,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
And of
marketing
course,
agencies.
and then the referrals stem from there, right? So
Yeah.
either they're going to be a referral source or they're going to be some kind of agency client for active installs, one of the two.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're just looking at, all right, well, who found us and seems to really enjoy our product. And from there, we can actually say, oh, look, we seem to have a lot of success with this group of people. Maybe we should focus on marketing to this group of people and accessing the pain points that affect this group of people and focusing on promoting the features that improve the lives of this group of people, right? And from there, we came up with, all right, marketing agencies that build WordPress sites for their clients. Like, that's the ideal customer. And the number one resistance, and certainly my number one resistance to like choosing that, is like, well, then I'm excluding like a bunch of people. And that's everybody's number one resistance to like niching down.
Yeah.
Is well, if I just make all my marketing material for like this group of people, then I'm going to drive away people who could possibly benefit from my product. And that might happen. I'm sure it has happened, but by and large, like 70% of our sales are still solopreneurs, small, medium businesses that DIY. We're really big with the DIYer market. So a lot of our messaging is also positioned to like DIY people who enjoy doing that. Like, we're great for them. Even though a lot of our messaging is still primarily towards agencies. And I didn't come up with this. The guy I learned it from, his name is Dan Martell. I think you know who he is.
Yeah.
If you don't know who he is, you can go look him up.
I like his book.
But he calls it the halo effect, where, if you think of your ideal customer as in the center of many Venn diagrams, like, that's how I like to visualize it. Your ideal customer is the center of many Venn diagrams that are different qualities, right? Yep. And then your total reach and your total customer base will be, yes, that center, but also the maybe like 1, 2, or even 3 levels out from that, because there's these shared qualities between groups of people that are still going to see and get value out, even though your messaging is for that like target, that bullseye in the middle. So I wouldn't particularly worry about being like too specific. You can pick a niche that's too specific. Like, if you want to say like marketing agencies that only use Elementor and WordPress and LearnDash and WooCommerce and LearnDash and all of those services, and they only use that tech stack, that might be a little bit too small.
Yeah. Yeah. Will Middleton and I were having a conversation just yesterday about that. It was like, how do you go from being, this was our conversation, how do you go from being, an agency type person, an implementer, to someone that's in the product game, right? We're like, well, how would you even enter the product game? And we were just kind of spitballing. And he was like, well, the hard part for both of us is, we're both connected to Lifter LMS. And so you start thinking about, well, I'd want to help people with Lifter LMS. And you go, okay, so how big is Lifter LMS? And then what percentage of those people actually pay for add-ons with Lifter LMS? And then what percentage of people that pay for add-ons with Lifter LMS would also pay for a third party, extra tool to make it better? And you just start whittling down and down. And then you go, well, I'm going to put all that work to market to 250 people.
Yeah, right. That's
too small of a niche.
That's also why, it's beneficial to do this work before you complete the product, which I didn't do. But fortunately, there's lots of CRM. That's a proven market, right? That's one of the other things. I highly recommend, like, if you're going to start a business that's in a proven market already, that has lots of competition. People are worried about there's too much competition. No, there's enough for everybody. You just got to find your corner in that larger market, which we did with self-hosting, flat rate cost, ease of use for marketing agencies. Like that's the corner that we sort of carved out for ourselves in what is one of the largest. I think the CRM market is probably only second to the CMS market, to be honest.
Well, when you mention, those qualities to me out loud like that, it reminds me to my own purchase decision, right? And I have
Yeah.
nowhere near leveraged my Groundhogg account enough. Like to me, you and me talking, it's almost a waste of money. I don't have a big enough list to really leverage this thing, right? But I've got it. It's a great tool. For me, it was the capped costs because
Yeah.
I came from a corporate background where people would have custom built learning management sites, and it's $80,000 to build it. It's $100,000 a year to host it, and then you're paying per user for licensing fees. And then next thing you know, at the end of the year, as a corporate training manager, you're looking at a $300,000 spend on training sites and hosting, and you're going, that doesn't even make sense. Like as you think about a DIY entrepreneur solopreneur scenario, you would never be in that deep on that kind of a product.
No.
And it was like that with CRMs. I would see these CRM tools that were like, if your list is this big, it's this much. If your list is this big, it's this much. And then I heard of some corporate companies paying tens of thousands of dollars a month to send out emails. And I was like, I
One of our larger
gotta
clients
have
was
a list.
spending $70,000 a month with HubSpot.
See, I just couldn't even imagine. And so when I was first shopping for an, in WordPress CRM tool, I was like, the price is there and it's more than I want to pay, but it's capped. So at least I know what my budget's going to max at. I know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So there's no surprises.
And for people that have pre-existing large lists, like they're literally going from maybe $500 a month to $500 a year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's incredible savings for them. And so that's the market that we carved out. Okay, so do the work and really pick, number one, a niche that's large enough to that there's enough business for you to survive as a business, but small enough that you can create a well-crafted message, know the pain points, and number one, offer value that resolves those
Yeah.
pain points. So that's an important part, because you have to be able to resolve those. Okay, so now once you've done that work and you have this idea of who you want to help and how you can help them, and you have your messaging down, what you want to do is you want to figure out where those people hang out. So if you have a few clients already, again, those people that just show up by accident,
Yeah.
you can go ask them, where do you hang out? Like, do you hang out in meetups, in Facebook groups, on YouTube channels, in comment sections, on Quora, on Twitter, on wherever, or I guess it's X now, on X, right? Like, where do they spend time? And what you want to do as like the one and only salesperson in your organization and the champion of your product or the value that you offer is to also be in those places. And there's a very specific methodology to participating in a value first format. So if anybody's ever watched Glengarry Glen Ross, the movie or the play, you are familiar with the concept of ABC, always be closing. I personally have tried that. It doesn't work very well and certainly in a virtual environment, which is how we do most of everything these days. I prefer always be helping as a sales methodology. And the whole concept behind that is you go and you find questions or conversations that are happening in these communities where your ideal customer likes to hang out. And what you want to do is offer value in those conversations or answer those questions. And these questions can be totally unrelated. So for example, when I got started, I just joined a bunch of agency focused Facebook groups and adjacent groups. So like the Elementor and WooCommerce support groups, WordPress agencies group, the WP Builds Facebook group. And I started my own Facebook group, right? I just joined a slew of these, and for an hour to 2 hours a day, I would just hop around the groups, and you can search posts, and I type in anything remotely adjacent to my product or service. So I'd search CRM, I'd search email, I'd search whatever, and I'd look through the list of questions and posts and comments that people were doing, and then I just chime in. So like if one question was like, hey, listen, I am having an issue sending an email or I'm having issues with WordPress sending out email is a super common one. Or it's like my
Yeah.
Elementor form isn't sending out email. I know a little bit about sending email from WordPress. So I just chime in and I'd say, well, are you currently using an SMTP plugin? And it's like, if you're not, here is a listicle that I have on my site of the best SMTP plugins for WordPress, right? And then it's like, no, I wasn't using that one. Thanks, that solved my issue. Another question might be, how do I connect contact form 7 to HubSpot or something? And even though that wasn't like HubSpot's a competitor of mine, like even though that wasn't like a unique sales opportunity, other people are looking at these. And so what you're doing is you're investing in becoming an expert in the field of your industry. So in my
Yeah.
case, CRM for WordPress. So I'd say, hey, listen, there's a couple ways that you can connect Contact Form 7 to HubSpot. You can go with like Zapier or like WP Fusion or any of these other products, right? And then over time, you sort of build up a reputation in these communities as the guy for answering questions about, insert industry topic here.
Yeah.
And eventually, after maybe like 6 months of you being consistent in this, you will meet other experts in those communities. So all these communities were started by somebody,
Yeah.
usually by experts in their own right in their industries. The nice thing about most of these people is that they're of the mindset that a rising tide lifts all boats, and they're very helpful, and they want you to succeed as much as they want them to succeed. What's good for you is also good for them and good for their audience. So eventually, when you meet these people, meet these other experts like Kurt, and here I am on Kurt's podcast because I offer value to his community, and he wants me to offer value to his community. And so here I am being given an opportunity to speak to you. This is literally the system at work here, people. Do the work, try it. These experts will invite you to offer value in whatever way is most comfortable for them to do so. So maybe you'll get an opportunity to like, hey, listen, if you've got a course or a video or a post you want to just post in the group, go ahead and post it. We won't take it down immediately. Or, hey, listen, I got a podcast. You seem to know a lot about this particular thing. Why don't you come on the show and talk about it with me? Yeah. Or, maybe even just like something as simple as like a guest post. Hey, listen, I got a blog. Why don't you write something and we'll throw it up there and I can share with the audience. Stuff like that. Right. And all these experts, there's circles. And then you just get passed around the circle for a little bit. It sounds terrible, but you just go get passed from like, hey, I just did this call with this cool guy that was in my Facebook group. I think you should be on your thing. And then you just get sort of passed around. And in 2019, after doing this for like 6 months, I went from Joe Casabona to Jonathan Denwood to Chris Badgett to 6 other podcasts. Oh, Nathan. I did Nathan from WP Builds. I did so many podcasts in like a 3-month period. Just because, I invested the time and I just did the work. And that's, you get enough exposure to tangentially related audiences. You sort of build your own out of that subset, right? And people also follow all these different experts. And if people see you enough times, they get curious. And when they get curious is where part 3 of the system comes in. So part of offering value in these communities, in Twitter and Facebook or wherever your people hang out, part of the offering of value is the leaving of breadcrumbs. So I mentioned I'd drop a listicle or to a link to a blog post or maybe a link to a YouTube video, right? I offer value in my communication in the post or in the comments itself. And then if you would like to learn more, and I leave a link. and that is a breadcrumb. You're not selling anything. You're just offering additional value and more information. And these breadcrumbs, where do they lead, Kurt?
They hopefully to your website.
They lead to your website. They lead to the offer.
Hopefully to the offer.
They lead to the offer. These breadcrumbs lead to the offer. They go to the post to the offer, to the video to the offer, right? There's like these breadcrumbs. And so when people get curious and they see your stuff enough times, they click in and then they get led to the offer. It's like, oh, this person has an offer that sounds like it can solve my issue. Maybe I should give that a shot.
So I want to cross the bridge on this one, because I think this is an important kind of roundup statement for everything you just talked about. Like, I absolutely love what you're saying, right? It's like, if you don't have a list, you got to start a list. And how do you start a list? You get involved, right? And you pay it forward and you add the value, and then you refer people to your product, through the added value piece. I'm gathering all that. I think what people need to understand, Adrian, is it's a long game, man.
Oh, 6 months minimum.
There's no easy button for this.
No, it's not. It's work.
I mean, how many times does someone say, oh, I hired this SEO expert, 30 days ago, and I haven't seen a lick of revenue yet? And you're like, are you serious? It's like, it's gonna take time and work and consistency. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you've had to pivot a few times. You've had to change your messaging or change your direction, because you got to be
thing
flexible
about doing this system is, so like, you start off like at the beginning, it was like, all right, I'm gonna do this ideal customer profile. I'm gonna answer questions that are tangentially related to that, and I'm gonna create content for that. And then you're gonna do that for like a month, and then you're gonna learn something. You're gonna learn something about your audience, about yourself, about your product, and then you're gonna have to make adjustments, right? And you're going to tweak the profile, you're going to tweak the positioning, and then you're going to do that for another month, and then you're going to learn something else. Maybe that your product isn't actually as good as you thought for this particular use case. Or maybe you're going to learn that, oh my God, I just met this guy and I solved his problem in seconds, but he is totally in a different industry than what I was originally positioning towards. And then you're going to be like, well, maybe I should go target that industry. And then you're going to go back and forth, and you're going to go through the valley of despair. And then you're going to do the Dunning-Kruger thing, right? And you're just going to do all this, right? And and after 6 months, you're going to end up with something resembling a plan and resembling something that would remain consistent for a longer period of time. But the only way you get there is by doing the legwork. And it's 1 to 2 hours a day in the morning or in the evening, or while you're on the shitter, like whatever, like whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You just, if you're on your phone or on your laptop or on your computer or whatever, you just gotta be present, and you gotta add value. And this is going to be more effective earlier than any amount of paid advertising that you could do. The nice thing is, eventually, so you're going to do this for 6 months, and you're going to get your audience, and then you're going to build your champions, and then your champions are going to do this for you. And after a year, you'll be able to just export this all together. Export it to a staff member, export it to a PR agency, export it to your champions, your affiliates, or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you don't start there.
Yeah.
You don't start there.
When you get your champions, your ambassadors, your team, underneath you, that I imagine that's probably a huge relief for a creative kind of person, because then you're like, what do I build next? Or what do I add to? Or how do I augment? Or how do I annex this thing?
Well, after that, so once you have that audience, guess what you get to go do now? You get to go back to Facebook and start pouring gas on the fire.
Yeah. Nurture them a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that is so cool. I'm so thankful that you're able to come and share with us on that, because I know that, you're pretty vocal about the journey, right? And the struggle, because so many people look at a launched product and a success pattern and go, oh, what a cool overnight success story that is, but everyone forgets the years of work or turmoil that went before it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of like drop shipping ads that you see on TikTok or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
here's how I like made $20,000 one month with Facebook ads in a Shopify store, right? Like that's kind of stuff. That's fleeting. It's fleeting. Like you might be able to do it for 1-2 months, but it's fleeting. It's not stable. It's on pillar, it's like Coldplay, built on pillars of salt and pillars of sand.
Yeah.
Right? You do this work, that's your base. Like those are your, what's that? I forget who this, like those are my motherfuckers, like those are your people,
Yeah,
right?
it's sustainability, man. You want something
Yeah.
that's gonna keep going.
Yeah, it's your
Is
army. Like those are the people that are gonna live and die by your product if you do this work. And like they'll stick. And the people that you meet, so the experts are probably the most valuable thing that you get out of this besides customers, is relationships with those people that
yeah,
have those audiences that you'll be able to milk forever.
yeah,
Chris Badgett knows that I've been milking his for 5 years, right? But he doesn't mind, and I send him custom. It's mutually beneficial, right?
yeah.
But
Well,
and he's a friend, and you're
it
a
and
friend, right? And those are the people that you meet, and I think that's even more valuable
yeah, if we're
than,
super honest with each other, though, both products are very synergistic. They
yeah.
they they really work well together, and overall, Chris is just an amazingly generous, friendly person.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. He is.
Yeah.
He
So
is.
no, Groundhog's a great fit with Lifter LMS because it takes care of the things that people with Lifter would think was a void, right? And for people in the Groundhog space, it's like, I want to have courses. I got an answer for you.
Exactly, right? It's
Yeah.
it's it's all good. And I think that's the most valuable thing that I got out of doing this whole exercise, is you create that network.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. When I started going to word camps, that was the first I'd really been exposed to community in the
Mm-hmm.
WordPress space. I started working with Lifter LMS, doing the support calls and the mastermind calls, and then I went to the word camp, and that's when I learned that this, the WordPress meetups was a real thing. And
Yeah.
so I started going to WordPress meetups, and then a ton were virtual. So I spoke at a few, like one in Pittsburgh and one somewhere, I think in Seattle or something like that. And man, you just start getting around and you start seeing the same faces in different Zoom rooms,
Yeah.
and it gets familiar and consistent. And to your point, I've gotten some referrals out of that now where I've seen the same people over and over again. And then they go, that Kurt guy's an expert in this membership and learning thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then it flows. So I can see exactly what you mean. But dude, I've been in WordPress since 2004, and I didn't really get my mojo going until 2019 or 20. And then look, it's 2023 already. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's finally where I go to WordCamp and people yell my name and I don't know who they are. That's how I know I've done something right, you know, but
Yeah.
it's the long game.
Yeah. It's the long game. It's the long game. It helps if you know what you're offering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I have a very clear offer now.
Yeah.
I didn't, but now I do. And so I can get on, a call with someone and be like, all right, here's what we can do for you. Take it or leave it. Right.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point, it's easier. And the money starts rolling. Right. And that's what we want. We want the money to be rolling.
Well, we're coming up near the end of our time together today, Adrian. What should people know about Groundhog, nearing here the end of 23? What would you like to promote if you want? Then now's your time to throw out a promote or an offer. Or
Yeah.
how can people reach you the best?
Is this going to go out before Black Friday?
Oh yeah.
All right, Black Friday, people. It's coming. Man, we're going to do it just like everybody
And
else.
we're gonna do it.
Yeah, we got a deal. You can come and get it if you want. It's 25% off annual. We do a cool thing that I like. So like a lot of people do the LTD or the lifetime deal. I hate that. I don't do that. I think it's a
Yeah.
terrible business plan. No shame, no shade towards anybody that, does do that, but I don't. Instead, what we got is we got a 3-year deal where you pay for 2 years up front, and then your third year is free. We got a sweet buy 2, get 1 kind of thing. BOGO
That's
for
the Manana
anybody.
Nomas plan. That's what I'm
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. So 2 years up front, you get the 3rd year free, or 25% off annual. Both great deals. Groundhogg is flat rate. We do not charge you a success tax.
Yeah.
One of the things that irks me the most about SaaS pricing, especially with HubSpot, is, so I mentioned earlier that we had that customer who's paying $70,000 a month. Okay. And he goes to HubSpot and he says, I want to cancel, because when you're $70,000 a month, there's no cancel button. You got to talk to somebody. Right. And so he's talking to this person, this cancellation specialist. I was like, well, why are you canceling? I was like, well, I'm switching to Ground, whatever. Right. They're authorized. They offered him $30,000 a month, an over 50% reduction in his monthly bill.
Yeah.
Their pricing is fucking arbitrary. Totally
make it up as we go along, bro.
They're just making it up. Like they're authorized to do just incredible deals, and it doesn't cost. It's not like hosting is like, and space and disk space is so commoditized. There is zero reason why they charge the amount that they charge. Like the number of contacts does not equate to like an additional cost on their end. And so I just find like the whole concept totally disingenuous, which is why Groundhogg is flat rate pricing. Do not charge you more. We only charge based on features for updates and support. Come check it out. It's completely self-hosted, so you own your own data. Also, if you don't renew Groundhogg, you should, because we're great and you'll love us, and I want your money. But if you don't, it's not like we just turn it off, right? Like you'll be able to continue using Groundhogg in the state that it was from your previous renewal. So whatever updates, you just won't get the new ones. And so if you have to like migrate, or if you have to whatever, or you're just like, maybe you're just winding down operations, but you want to be able to export your list, it's not like we just like, oh my God, I can't go export my contacts anymore. So that's nice, because, the SaaS people will do that because that's how they make money. WordPress integration, we talked about Lifter LMS, and we have like a super solid integration, Lifter, WooCommerce, LearnDash, all the form plugins, easy to downloads. It's super tightly integrated with WordPress, so you just log in and it's all there. It's very well optimized. It doesn't slow down your site. It's just an all-around great product, and I'm really proud of it. And I think if you became a customer, you would be very happy.
Awesome. Dude, that wraps it up. How do people reach you the best? Groundhogg.io, or
do
the
Groundhogg.io.
What do you do?
I mean, we're everywhere. Groundhogg on LinkedIn, Groundhogg on Twitter, Groundhogg on Google, with 2 G's.
2 G's.
2 G's. Groundhogg with 2 G's. 2 G's at the end.
Well, folks, this has been Adrian Tobey with Groundhogg, and an absolute pleasure. I'm honored to actually have him on the show. I've known him for years, and he's finally here. Adrian, have a good one, man.
Thanks.